good afternoon to all of you. We are here again at our second Culturist Tech Talk and members meeting. We started this Culturist Tech Talk as an all members initiative for the members itself. The first meeting was in the first meeting we invited Rohit to speak on his experiences at the ISCRP level. He discussed his experiences, what goes behind the scenes of organizing all this ISC, and so that was. Now we are into the second tech talk, and it's an opportunity where we call members of NSCRP to come forward and to share their work, to discuss it, to put it into larger perspectives for other members, for the expert and for the new members who are members of NSCRP. And this Culturist Tech Talk goes in line and are in sync with ICOMOS India Strategic Plan 2023, as well as MOA of ICOMOS India, which talks about the need to have people on board, to share, to inform, to aware, and then ultimately to build networking and capacity building. So next. These are some just housekeeping rules. While the speaker presents, we can all mute our microphones. If the network connectivity does not is sufficient, we can just keep our videos off. After the session, we'll open the floor for question and answers and for larger discussion. So today is 9th, and so on the 13th of October, the world is going to celebrate the International Day for Disaster Risk Reductions, which is focused on the theme of international cooperation for developing countries to reduce the disaster risk and disaster losses. We invited Amit to talk on this aspect, as well as to talk on his aspect of work. Amit works largely on the sector of water. Water is one of the agents for India, which keeps international cooperation. We share boundaries with other neighboring countries, and we share water resources with them also. So within that perspective, I think water is an important area of international cooperation between the countries, between our neighboring countries. And so here we are to just commemorate and celebrate through Amit this International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. We are a couple of days ahead for the actual day. Next. So our second is this is our second Culturistic Tech Talks. We are delighted to have architect Amit Tandon here with us. Amit Tandon is trained as an architect and holds a degree in water policy and governance. He is a budding humanitarian professional, member of Radar India, and he is currently in Nagpur working for the risk governance as a risk governance consultant, technical support to Divisional Commissioner Nagpur. He has been an active member of this NSC as well as other humanitarian groups, and has been actively involved in humanitarian interventions such as Hurricane Irma flood recovery, Kerala flood recovery, and Sangli flood social sector recovery plan. The expertise, Amit has a wide and cross-sectional expertise in WASH, shelter, and disaster risk reduction. Being an active ICOMOS member, he is also an ICORP member and is and a member of Water Heritage Working Group. The idea of Culturist Tech Talk was derived from the members sharing by the members, information sharing, and to keep gaining the knowledge from one another. Amit will be talking about his experiences in the design of disaster risk reduction and recovery systems, presenting the case studies from the Kerala, from Maharashtra and West Bengal, which aligns and interlinks the risk preparedness, water heritage, and then indigenous technologies and their roles to achieve the community resilience as a holistic risk reduction, risk preparedness objectives. So I now invite Amit to please open up the talk. Amit, we welcome you. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shahzad. First of all, just wanted to do an internet check. Am I audible or my internet is lagging or something of that sort? If that is
No,
there, then I'll switch to a different internet.
everything is good.
All good?
Everything is fine.
Great. Thank you. So thanks a lot, everyone who have joined, and thanks a lot, iCommerce India, Priyanka, and Shahzad for organizing this. I'll share my presentation, and we can have informal conversation. It's anyway a smaller group. And is my screen visible now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Great. So first of all, thank you for this large, very good introduction about myself, and even I was surprised to know, okay, this is what I do. And I think when Priyanka called me, one of my questions was also, what can I talk about? And until day before yesterday or 2 days back, I was having this concern because a lot of the work which I have been doing is a lot in the back end. Okay, so I don't know. It wasn't tangible enough to share. It is not a design. It is not a product. It is not a structure which I could share. So I thought, okay, let me just put everything together. Priyanka and a few of my friends also suggested, why don't I just share how I approach a lot of the work which I have been doing. So hello everyone, I am Amit Tandon. I am trained as an architect, trained as a water policy and governance professional, largely work as a disaster risk management person. I work independently or interdependently, and I get deployed in different disasters and different kind of a context. Currently, I'm working as a risk governance expert for the divisional commissioner in Nagpur division. We are looking at COVID preparedness, third wave preparedness, COVID and cascading risk of COVID-19 on women, children, etc. So some of the work what I'll be sharing here is a lot more informal. It is a little more candid in terms of the work I have been doing. It might be really short and informative, or probably some information might be there. So please feel free to have more conversation around it. So the presentation is called Half Glass Water. Working with the government, within the governance, sometimes I'm optimistic and sometimes I'm pessimistic and sometimes I'm realistic, and that's why I have named this presentation Half Glass Water. It's sharing experiences from the field, what I have been part of. The experiences come from a different context of working. Some of the context have been working in the hilly regions, and some of the context can be working in the beautiful monsoon. Some of the regions which actually look beautiful even after the floods, and some of the experiences come from working in the drought level conditions of Gaya or Bihar, different parts of Bihar, where there's not enough water, and impact of risk is much higher on women, children, vulnerable communities, marginalized communities, etc. Some context is also working with the system where it has crumbling infrastructure. This photograph is from a public health care center in Sangli district. And some experiences are like this, where I was setting up the COVID control room in Sangli itself. Okay. Yeah. So some of the experiences are like as intense as creating a COVID control room in Sangli. So the context keeps on extremely diverse. Perks of working independently, perks of working as an individual and participating in collaboration with a lot of different organizations or different systems itself, and largely with the government. The context keep on changing, and with all the context, the challenges also keep on changing. So the challenges with each context comes as a different thing. I was working in this pictures from the Kerala flood response, flood recovery, not response, where I was looking at conversion of safe wells into safe water sources. As we understand that wells are a critical and important source of water for a lot of communities, and a lot of wells got contaminated after the floods. So we're working in a some project. The challenges were a lot technical over here. The challenges of working in fields where some of these disasters might not look, some of these crises might not be, hazard might not be a clear disaster because there's not enough losses of lives, but there is impact on the plantations which were there, leading to loss of livelihoods. Some things are much more technical with respect to not just water, shelter, and other aspect where we have to look into uh, water quality, water quantity, access to water. And some of the challenges are from people itself, where the intervention which is being given is not adopted by the people, or probably it has its own systemic designers. Some of the challenges what we work is highly social, where we see that there are challenges with the people in this sector, issues of child rights, issues of caste, class, and gender. And some of the challenges are to work with the administration, where we work with the collector, we work with the or I work with the collectors, district administration to understand the challenges, what they face in terms of to provide these services. India is a huge country and the system are highly rigid and the systems are rigid, not highly, but systems are rigid, as well as system have their own challenges as well. And being coming from a humanitarian lens where it is neutral, where it has to be task based, deliverable based, we have to work in all of these constraints. So just before we started this presentation, we are talking about the challenges which are already there. It could be about phosphate, it could be about sand mining. The people are aware about it. Everyone is doing their best, as well as everyone know their boundaries. Everyone have their own challenges to address. But with all the challenges in every context, we have to come with certain kind of an approach. And I'll be talking a lot about the approaches which are adopted in 3 projects. One was the Kerala flood. One was the Sangli flood recovery, as well as the COVID-19 management, and the current work, the approach what I have been adopting in the at the divisional level in Nagpur. Coming to more specifics, I was deployed as a wash specialist under the So yeah. I was working as a wash specialist and DIY consultant at the Kerala Flood Recovery Program. The challenge was to convert wells into safe water sources in Kerala because of floods, a lot of wells had got contaminated. Well, we went into the system itself. We realized that there were a lot of capacities within the people itself, but a lot of challenges as well. जैसे जहाँ पे पानी का क्या था कि safe handling and storage was also a problem. People were putting their hands in water and all, but at the same time, there were capacities such as Chudu Velam, which is hot water which is given in Kerala as a general purpose, and it acted as a very interesting recovery response intervention as well. What we did is we went into doing a good technical analysis of different kind of wells, different kind of geology, the hydrological conditions, because it differed from the coastal Kerala to the area which had more hills, that is Wayanad and Idukki other districts. And we came up with a lot of information in terms of how to clean wells and how to chlorinate, how to disinfect all these wells, and also build a complete manual about how to create a livelihood opportunity around the same thing. What happened in the meantime that there was a rebuilt Kerala development plan which happened, and the rebuilt Kerala development plan, and this is a part of the advocacy work which we did. The Rebuild Kerala Development Plan was about, it was a strategic intervention, policy intervention, in which we were looking at how to convert, the Rebuild Kerala Development Plan had a much more broader vision. And within that, there was a concept, within that, there was an aspect of water supply. What that document said was that wells, there was a contamination of wells, which they acknowledged as a problem. They acknowledged that wells are highly, there are so many wells, around 2 lakh, 3 lakh wells in Kerala itself. And they also said that at one point of time, but the response to within the Kerala development plan was that we need to remove substitute wells by pipe water supply. And there was a huge uproar, there wasn't a huge uproar, but it is also seen as, but there was much more challenges because no one was looking after those wells. And what as a water professional we were seeing is that wells are not just a source of water, but it is also the mirror of the aquifers which are already there. So in case water in the well is problematic, it is not the well water is contaminated, it is also the aquifer which is contaminated, which means that in case we have to go further, we have to get back into cleaning of wells and restoring all these wells so that the larger aquifer gets charged. But as we know that, and all of these policy documents need certain intervention. We did a small, based on that, there was multiple interventions what was done by me as well as with the team. So one point of the team was looking at a technical aspect, and we started a small petition on how to let's make wells as a wastewater source, as a safe water source. It wasn't signed by many people, but it was signed by like 265 people. But also it is important how we took that petition as well as strategic intervention after developing a technical report to the people itself, not just to the people, but to the administration. We did series of consultation with the government, panchayats, district administration, with the local people, with the local organizations, and the effort. And also we had good case studies, we had documented all the knowledge. But what happened, and with the systematic and the strategic approach, there was this was the Rebuild Kerala development plan. On 18 Jan 2019, it was they also invited a public opinion. I think this was in March, early March. They invited a public opinion on the draft Rebuild Kerala development plan, and within the draft there was no mention of wells and everything. Based on so I led the whole advocacy campaign, and within the public consultation, which was done by UNDP in department with water sanitation department. And it was a very interesting experience, because when those kind of advocacy consultation happens, it is not just about bringing facts. It is not just about it is not about just bringing facts or our ideologies, but it is a lot about how we communicate, how the communication is strategic, how the communication is it's approach driven, and also the communication requires a lot of listening to understand that. We created, and with the series of action, this is a small change which happened. So within this Rebuild Kerala development plan, we were able to have this chapter 4.2.4. There were 3 lines which were inserted, directly taken from our document what we submitted. One was a systematic approach is needed to convert household open wells to safe and protected water sources. This looks like a small statement, but this is a smaller achievement as well, what we were doing. We looked into an holistic approach of water, setting up level wash platform, integrating efforts, institution mandate, looking into dug wells, natural springs, rainwater harvesting, solid liquid waste management, and an integrated approach to drinking water quality monitoring and surveillance. These 3 agenda points bringing in a government document was a small achievement what we did. Later on, but also it leads to something else, because it's a very long process, and this is one of the start. RKDP took up, and later RKDP when took up after we moved out. I think PwC or some other consultants were there working with them, and then they took up these approaches, and probably right now also they are developing smaller programs around it. So this was one approach of advocacy, where it was evidence-based, it was technical in nature, it used a right platform, right opinion, right opportunity, and with effective communication, we were able to bring these three small aspects within the RKDP program. This was one project. Second project I'll talk about is District Disaster Recovery Coordination Consultant in Sangli floods 2019. The flood happened in, I think, the August, no. I reached there in September. Yeah, 3rd of August I reached. Floods were in July. So I was there in the early recovery where the water had receded and the recovery process had already started. Early recovery, and I was working with the Zilla Parishad in Sangli, one of the best administrators I have worked with as of now. Within 3 days, the biggest achievement was that I was able to find a seat in office, and it is one of the biggest tasks in case you have to work with the government or within the governance. Lot of work. This work required development of a social sector recovery, SSRPP, recovery and preparedness plan for the complete district. The challenges were, second was a recovery coordination, because there were multiple organizations which were working and we had to do a complete coordination of that. This thing required immense amount of data collection from 104 villages which were affected by floods. Within 104 villages, we had around 279 schools, 320 Anganwadis. There were 32 public health care centers and 56 sub-centers, and all of these were impacted. These are government services and which needs to be restored as soon as possible. It required a lot of consultation, and when we consult with the community, we realize that community they have so much of immense knowledge. They understand the systemic concerns, and still they're smiling. These are a couple of Anganwadi workers working over there. The work also required a lot of coordination, where there was interdepartmental coordination. There was coordination between government organization and NGOs. There was systemic capacity building of the line departments as well. So this Praveen Bhau, he is training on sphere standards. Oxfam, who had revived one of the drinking water systems, so uska alag hai. And then there was Education Tata Trust, which was working for the digital education in schools. So this kind of coordination also was important, because when we do coordination in emergencies, there is high intensity of work which is required. Also, it requires a lot of matching polarities. Within 10 days, if some organization is constructing or reviving one water system, it is immense. It is extremely important. A lot of people come and say, oh, this is not perfect. Oh, yes, it is not supposed to be perfect. But it requires constant renovation, constant requirement, and constant changing. And this happens with the governance system as well. One of the key things what we achieved over here was interdepartmental coordination, because when you work with the government departments, you realize that these are hardcore rigid systems where their health doesn't talk to water sanitation, and we see as an external person that these things are related. We developed a training, we developed a complete campaign in association with the support of health as well as water sanitation department on 3 aspects: on drinking water quality, as 2 aspects: drinking water quality, sanitation, and dengue, because dengue also emerged after that. We did immense amount of capacity building. We did a lot of capacity building of the government staff on drinking water quality monitoring. We did, I was mostly doing the coordination as well as some capacity building. Coordination with respect to the flood recovery. So this was a team trained by Radar India, a complete village. This is village level disaster management task force. Unki training thi 5 din ki hardcore training on various aspects of first aid, emergency coordination, communication, etc. And also looking at departmental disaster management plan. So that capacity building training happens at different levels, and required, not required efficacy is important, but this efficacy which we saw was immense when the COVID response happened, because all of these task forces supported during the COVID response at the village level. This is one of the cases where we used community as a capacity and culture as a capacity on outreaching. So a lot of information, education, communication happened by this person. We created a complete campaign around him. Uh, they use a local art or local culture called as local method called as Gondard and other uh, as a theater as a medium in which they communicate issues to children as well as to the communities. Over here, we were talking about water and water quality, but we use them as well as in Sangli and Kolhapur. We utilize them for COVID relief as well. Over here, one of the challenges and so the learning from here, the approach was about lot of coordination, and coordination requires effective communication, clear communication, creating data, and communicating and collaborating with lot of other people, lot of different organizations, NGOs, etc. Then we move. Then one of the cases I wanted to share was very interesting, which was about district disaster coordination consultant. Because in Sangli, when I was about to move out as a surge capacity, the COVID happened, and there I was part of setting up the district coordination consult as a district COVID control room, which was that's the only photograph probably I have of myself doing some work, but. Lot of work happens at the back end. We created a system. In this work, what I did largely was only developing Google Forms and Google Sheets. But that was one of the effective medium in Sangli where we created a system in which any person entering into the district from into 10 blocks from 17 checkpoints was reported. And before that person reached their home, we had two doctors, community health officers, who were there at that person home before that person reached to stamp him and home quarantine him. And that was one of the strategic intervention activity what we did to curb COVID. We also did a lot of survey of ILI patients, SARI patients, comorbidities patient within the first wave, and definitely the first wave response was extremely well coordinated over there. Lot of people, but things change, and the best thing about working, or best or the worst thing working with the administration, is that the administration it is highly dependent on people, not sometimes the processes. The administrator which I was working with, Abhijit Raut, he got transferred to Jalgaon as a collector, and my contact also got over, and then we moved out. So it is extremely time bound. Currently, I work as a risk governance specialist. I have been coordinating with respect to vaccination of people going abroad. So creating process, creating systems over there. Within the COVID surge support, I was there after the towards the end of the second wave, not towards the end, but at the second wave itself, where I had to set up systems for bed allocation, had to set up systems for vaccination, etc. And now I'm looking at the cascading risk. And because cascading risk is extremely important right now. COVID is probably third wave, aayegi pata nahi, but there has been a lot of immense concern with respect to livelihood, impact on children, women, etc. Some of the work which I do is a lot of based on the evidences, and this is how working with the government challenges look like. So the Guardian Minister of the district, he just announced that third wave of the COVID-19 has reached Nagpur, restrictions to be announced soon, the minister. And there was huge panic because the business communities, the livelihoods, lot of impact. There was vendors they had stopped their payment immediately. Business had to shut down. People started moving out because this kind of announcement, when a Guardian Minister says, it's a really, really big thing. I was part of that meeting, and in a meeting where a lot of people are yes man, sometimes you as a consultant can't do enough. But next day itself, I had that privilege. I went to the collector and I showed them the kind of evidences. So analyzed data from day one to the day, and looked into the trends of cases, looked into the trends of RT-PCR positivity rate, and then made them realize that there are no certain evidences, scientific evidences of third wave yet. And let's not do this kind of announcement at this moment of time. There was no, in terms of response of this kind of advocacy, there was no statement which was made by Guardian Minister later. But what happened was there was no lockdown, which was announced earlier. And these small wins, probably no one working in the public sector, it is too anonymous. We are very small peg in a very huge machinery. Currently, I'm working on two aspects apart from this is developing a government organization and non-government organization coordination center, where one thing which State Disaster Management Authority has realized that, National Disaster Management Authority has realized that a lot of NGOs has supported the government, and let's formalize the system. So this was the first orientation meeting which happened a day before yesterday. Day before day to day before yesterday on setting up a geo-NGO coordination center, which is Nagpur is the only district which has one. Nagpur is the only district in Maharashtra which has a formalized government and non-government organization coordination center, which will look into strengths of both the aspects of government as well as non-government, and also see how both geo and NGO can work in tandem to address some of those gaps. Just now, today morning, I was part of one consultation where I have been looking into cascading risk of these other women who have lost their families. And I'm doing a kind of a small internal study to give certain recommendations to my divisional commissioner, so that some of these policies can be implemented much more effectively. And let's see how it goes. This is very recent, today morning. I subeh ki picture. The approach, one of the learning which I have from this is it requires a lot of patience. We are part of a very huge country. It's a huge system. It's very easy to say that some of these policies and policymakers are doing nothing or doing something. Policies are intent documents. Policies are not, these are intent documents. It requires more policy instruments. It requires administrative units. It requires a lot more. And what we need, a lot of our, someone said before the meeting that a lot of us are sitting in the rooms. Yes, we are, but there's always an option to go out. These two people are volunteering since day one from a lot of other aspects. It is our convenience, it is our privilege as we choose also to sit in the rooms and talk about policy change. But policy change and programs happen on the field, and no one stops us to go on the field. It is, we know that there are concerns with respect to COVID. We also know that we have been going for a lot of other aspects as well. So yes, there's also always a chance what we have to go and work. One thing in all the three approaches which I do is more important is to celebrate. Celebrate small victories. A lot of strengths or resilience come from those celebrations. I haven't seen, though in today's meeting itself, it was emotional meeting for a lot of participants, but in the end, they were all smiling. They know that things are past, but for resilience, we need to celebrate. We have to come together for those celebrations. I'm grateful to these small interdependent opportunities to celebrate what I celebrate, the places where I go, and thanks to the work which I am part of, we have a lot of celebrates, a lot of beautiful places. It's a lot of interesting food. The interesting food is also where beef and pork are there on the same plate, and one of the best chips or one of the best Kerala food what I could have. Celebrations with different teams. So there are too many goodbyes. Oh, this picture is not clear, but this picture is from the first assignment which I was part of with the in Latur. So there's Nishant, myself, Pankaj, Gajanan, Balaji, hum sab log hain jo celebrate karte hain. This is also from one of the last good teamwork which I was part of, largely work independently where. This is my Kshitij. So, and these kind of things actually within the project add value as well as keeps on motivated, and that's also important to continue the work. A lot of work happens with large teams, and some teams like working with ICOMOS team and working with from the vector on the vector control project which we did in Vilai, and the strength within the team is immense, and we need to acknowledge that, we need to celebrate that, and that keeps us going. Beautiful places come with very interesting things as well, where we go in nice museums to see, explore, celebrations at in different projects, as well as and these celebrations also give good gratification. The smiles on the faces of children is important gratification to go on. So yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. Thank you. To summarize, there are different projects. With different projects come different contexts, and in different contexts are different kind of challenges. Challenges are technical, challenges are social, administrative, and much more. But with every challenge, we need to innovate ourselves. We need to learn, unlearn, relearn a lot of things. And over there will be smaller achievements. They might not be big achievements. A small achievement is a line in a document. Probably a big achievement is hopefully creating possibly building an evidence-based advocacy which can look into COVID-19 restrictions. And but more and more with every challenges in every context, we need to ensure that we need to celebrate who we are with and where we work. And that's it from my side. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I believe that I believe that we have मतलब कि टाइम तो बहुत ज्यादा हो गया है. So that's
Amit,
it.
great,
Thank you
great.
for
Thank you. I think that's such a nice note to end at, to celebrate. And today we are celebrating in advance the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. And even in this small way, I think we try to make a difference. So yeah, I mean, there are so many questions. I mean, can I just jump in and ask two?
Yeah.
I mean, on a light note, I see that it's so overwhelming, your work, the rigid system, the governance. How do you relax at the end of the day? What do you do to relax and chill?
Interestingly, wait, I'll show you. So I live right now, तो मैं बिल्कुल ऐसा लेक के बाजू में रहता हूँ.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so that is one thing. I have celebration is one. Thankfully, in Nagpur, I have been associated with a lot of different people. Like there's a makers adda where people go and make stuff, and organizing film screening. I also volunteer at a restaurant and I wait tables to do
Wow.
relax myself. And yeah, कुछ ना कुछ चलता रहता है. And yeah, it could be a little taxing, but there are people to talk to. Yeah.
On a serious note, how do you see diversity and gender inclusion in your work in the governance and in the because I saw a lot of women in the NGO setup, but not a lot of them in your workspaces.
Yeah. There are concerns. There are definitely concerns because administration policies, a lot of policies, administration are gender blind. In terms of in current situation, I'm blessed because I work, my divisional commissioner is also a lady, Mrs. Prajakta. The collector I work closely with is I. Vimla from Nagpur, Nagpur collector. She's also a lady. And most of the administrators जिनके साथ काम कर रहे हैं, where it is they are largely women. But yes, I understand that a lot of policies and programs need to focus on gender. I myself need a lot of gender sensitization because it is a continuous process. Things things are okay-ish, and hopefully things will be better. In terms of programmatic aspect, there is one mission Vatsalya, which government of Maharashtra has already launched, and a lot of my work is largely will look into that to streamline mission Vatsalya. Let's see how far it goes. On terms of gender sensitization within the government and governance, I think gender sensitization is extremely needed. Also, it is not just a gender sensitization, but there is immense need of building capacities within the government system. यहाँ पे लोगों को Excel use करना नहीं आता है, Word use करना नहीं आता है, computer literacy नहीं है, बहुत सारी चीजों की capacity की कमी है, और बहुत जरूरत है. And very important for us also to understand, these are administrative departments. These are not supposed to have technical knowledge. They are not, these are not policy makers. They are policy implementers. They are just admin work. These are only administration department जो हमारे साथ हमारे offices में भी होता है.
Right.
But yeah.
Thank you, Amit. I think we have a few questions on the chat. Ms. Poonam asks, who initiated the Go NGO coming together in Nagpur? And if you can speak a bit more about this.
So this is done based on, so National Disaster Management Authority on 5th of May had given a policy, had given a direction, which an intent document or intent letter, which was largely focused on creating a government non-government organization coordination center. Now, based on that guideline from National Disaster Management Authority, like I work as a risk governance specialist in division level. One of the team person works at the State Disaster Management Authority, Annie George, and Omkar from UNICEF and other people are there. So they did advocacy at the state level. Based on that advocacy, there is a very interesting government order which has come from the State Disaster Management Authority. It uses word like trust. It uses word like neutrality, unity, impartiality, other humanitarian principles are part of that letter. I'll share that letter. So based on that letter, I did advocacy with all the collectors in the 6th district. We have started one in Nagpur. So I have been supporting the District Disaster Management Authority, District Disaster Management Officer, to create this GeoNGO coordination system, in which the first thing is that initiation meeting. Second, first thing is that, like, creating that committee. Second is making a list of organizations. So we have created a Kobo form and circulated that. Third thing is I'm handholding him so that what kind of coordination work should happen, how the information should be shared, not shared, etc. So it is still in the process. And so I'll speak more about it. What I'll do, Poonam, is I'll share a small presentation in the WhatsApp group. And I think that will be helpful for all of us to look into GeoNGO coordination systems. And even in case you want, you can look into I don't have the Government of India ka GR, but अगर कोई महाराष्ट्र में करना चाहता है, so please go ahead, talk to your collector about this letter, and you can start something over there as well.
And where to find this letter, Amit?
I'm sharing this letter. I'm sharing this letter on the group.
Okay. This is very interesting because I was just reading a report on post this floods, 2018. It's a report by a committee on Kerala.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very extensive, very beautiful report about also climate resilience, climate change resilience. It's tying it up together. And in that, the 73rd and 74th Amendment to Constitution in Governance is highlighted as Kerala's strength.
Yeah.
And also to attend to this, the post-COVID and during COVID and management and COVID management in itself, and relating it that this would be the way forward for better resilience. What is your experience in Maharashtra? And in your experience, any other state which has actually implemented 73rd, 74th? Because to my knowledge, only Kerala has.
No. I think there's a misconception behind it. Kerala has very effective 73rd, 74th Amendment because they practice it. 73rd, 74th Amendment is there in all the states across the country.
Yeah, all there, but they're not. They have not implemented. That's what.
No.
I mean, any other state?
Every state implements it.
Not Amit, I've been trying to do this for last 15 years in Goa. So don't tell me that. I understand. I'm asking, is there any other state with effective? Because Kerala is most effective, we know, and we have had speakers from there. So I'm wondering, since my knowledge might be a little rusty since 2006 and 7, have you come across any other place which is actually giving more importance? Because our future is in that. If we can work grounds up, and your work is speaking about it. So I'm asking you personally, personal question, is the governance ready to give up its seat of power and let people from the ground, or rather from the to empower? There is a huge gap, as you said, in terms of knowledge gap, in terms of capacities themselves. I mean, we have seen that.
Yeah.
So working from panchayat level, for instance, and tying up all the villages into the district and district into the city. Is this something that you see it's possible at some point of time?
Yeah. So the 73rd, 4th Amendment jo baat karta hai, that is about strengthening the Gram Panchayat. It is not just strengthening, but Gram Panchayat has their they have their own funds. So 15 finance commission में गवर्नमेंट ग्राम पंचायत के पास फंड्स होते हैं और इनके पास फंड्स होते हैं, क्या कहते हैं, म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन के पास फंड्स होते हैं. They implemented based on that. So government, so people have to come together and make their plan. So इसका GPDP बनता है, जो ग्राम पंचायत डेवलपमेंट प्लान बनता है, it is done in presence of ग्राम पंचायत and जो सभा होती है, ग्राम सभा में ही अप्रूव होता है. The thing is at the grassroots level. See, Kerala is highly political. Kerala is immense amount of Kerala is highly political. Kerala is highly urbanized, as well as Kerala has immense amount of education and literacy, and they have political literacy. These it is not like the effective implementation. It is the people who have to do it.
Correct.
And people come together और वही लोग ग्राम पंचायत प्लान बनाते हैं. और वही जो अगर लोग अनएजुकेटेड हैं या वही लोग जो दे आर डिफरेंट पॉलिटिकल मोटिव्स, अगर वही लोग ग्राम पंचायत लेवल पे महाराष्ट्र में बनाते हैं तो ऑटोमेटिकली इतना शायद से इफेक्टिव, वो इफेक्टिव है, वो भी वही अपने लेवल पे भी इफेक्टिव है, बिकॉज जिस तरीके का प्लान बना वही इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ है ना. दे आर दोज आर केरला हैज बेटर अकाउंटेबिलिटी, ट्रांसपेरेंसी बिकॉज ऑफ द सिटीजंस ओवर देयर. Similarly, it might not be having that. So it is not the governance concern. It is the concern. It is a citizen. It is both. It is a governance concern, but it comes from the responsibility of the citizens as well. It is not just that there's a person sitting on the power and they are doing it. It is not like that. I understand the concerns of it. वो top-down approach हो रही है क्योंकि bottom-up approach काम नहीं कर रही है इस समय.
And it's also actively thwarted, na? Because now more and more secretaries are being planted into this process where even panchayat secretary is going to decide. So there is also, there are both sides, but anyways, I get the answer between what you said. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shehzad, would you like to ask your question? I think you put one.
Yeah, so like based on the COVID management experiences, Amit, how do you evaluate the risk information as an integral part for the risk mitigation and preparedness?
Risk information is extremely important in COVID, especially in COVID, because इसमें risk communication, so we call it as RCCE, risk communication and community engagement, extremely important because misinformation has been there regarding COVID as well as vaccination. So yeah, extremely important, I think.
Aparna ma'am, would you like to ask your question or can I go ahead?
Yes. Okay, I was waiting. Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much for a very fascinating talk and also giving us a glimpse of your work. I just wanted to understand because when you were talking about, how you were navigating through with various stakeholders and talking to different agencies, and you kept on saying lot of coordination. My question to you is, in the heritage field, especially people I come across, they always want to, stay in their one little corner. And it's very hard for people to tell them like, okay, to get proper risk information, even to understand your hazards well, you need to go and talk to this other guy. So my question is like, what tips would you give to heritage people who do not know so much about, how the risk machinery in a place works? What is the setup? You don't know the agencies. You just see a series of telephone numbers which normally don't work. So how would you say to an ordinary heritage person to, go and find out what's happening?
Good question. Very good question.
So I feel that everyone have their own domain of work. If there's an independent person working within the larger system, they have their different approach towards it. In case, so advocacy has to be extremely strategic. If we have to make a change within the policy, advocacy, etc. I don't know, Aparna, probably I might be deviating from it. So can you repeat your question again? So I'll be able to.
अब मैं और भी आसान करके बताती हूँ कि जितने भी लोगों के साथ हम काम करते हैं, दूर से काम करते हैं, अभी आजकल सबको बोलते हैं कि भाई जाओ अपने लोकल एजेंसी से बात करो, हैजर्ड प्रोफाइल ढूंढो अपने एरिया की, और इतना मुश्किल है उन लोगों के लिए जाना और इस ऑफिशियल डंप को फेस करना, हिंदुस्तान में एक रिलक्टेंसी है, यू नो, मतलब जानने की, कौन जाएगा, धक्के खाएगा सरकारी दफ्तर में, राइट? शोइंग अस वाज लाइक सरकारी दफ्तर, राइट? तुम हमें दिखा रहे हो, और ये जो एक मतलब रेजिस्टेंस है जानने के लिए, बिकॉज कितना कितना तो आपको पता चल जाता है कि इतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है। अगर आप वाटर सोर्सेज के लिए काम कर रहे थे केरला में, हेरिटेज साइट्स पे भी वाटर सोर्सेज कंटेमिनेटेड थे, यू नो, लोग आएंगे वहां पे, मतलब इट विल बी पार्ट ऑफ द रिकवरी प्रोसेस। ना तो हेरिटेज वाले जानते हैं, ना तो ब्रॉडर फील्ड जानता है, तो फिर क्या करना चाहिए?
मेरे साथ हर प्रोजेक्ट में ये फेस होता है, बिकॉज आई गो एज एन वेरी एक्सटर्नल पर्सन. There is just a letter in hand. There is an external person which I go and work in the with the system itself. सबसे पहला काम जो मैं करता हूँ वो होता है कि अपने लिए सीट ढूंढना ऑफिस के अंदर, है ना. जो बाहर से लोग आते हैं, मतलब कि किसी को भी इसमें काम करने का है, they need to build trust. One of the reason I look for that seat is that is also a process of building trust. I don't go to field for at least 15 days. I go sit in the office. I show my face to the people administrator over there. You know, I solve their problem. I understand. I try to listen their concerns कि वो क्या है, क्या challenges वो लोग झेल रहे हैं, because and उसके बाद I start putting my own agenda. Okay, this needs to be done as well. So it's a long process. Many times what happens that because also people have their own restrictions, limitations, etc., where it is more touch and go. Okay, they'll come to an office, they'll give a letter, and they'll move out. You know, now from the administrative perspective, there are every day there are series of letters which come, and a series of problems which come. You know, and by the people who have not known them before, and they know for a fact that after the person will give letter, there will not be any kind of a communication from either way. And this is very realistic scenario. So in case someone who would like people, in case someone who would really like to work with the system, they should come and volunteer. I know for a fact there are people who came and volunteer for not just for COVID, for other things. They come and volunteer and they work with the governance. And I think heritage professionals who are the emerging professionals, young professionals, they can come and speak with the administrator and say, okay, sir, we will come and we will support you in whatever way you require. I have these skills of heritage. I have these skills of conservation. I have skills of data management. I have skills of articulation, writing, which office staff might not be have. And I'll work with you. Commit for 2 days in a week. Commit for 3 days in a week. Why not? And then commit for some time, and then work with them. And slowly, in a period of time, there will be a kind of a trust building where you can push certain agendas. Because when people have built a trust, you can recommend, ma'am, this is the thing which is happening over here. It's problematic, and can we do something about it? And they will come up with in case they like it, they will address it. Why not?
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does, and it does not. But yes, no, but it's all about attitudes and building long-term relationships, and relationship building is not easy. So yeah.
One of the biggest challenge what I face is a lot of younger people would like to work in offices. They don't want to go on field. Work doesn't happen on paper. Work happens on field. Paper पे हम लिखते हैं, बातें करते हैं, conferences में बातें करते हैं, but work happens over there doing small things. And for that, at least the younger generation needs to. I'm thankful to a lot of people in the group as well, where they have given me opportunity to be part of a lot of field work, and work happens there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Rohit has just shared your picture from 2011, if you would like to see in the chat. He also has mentioned that thank you for sharing your first-hand experience. It's really heartening to see how you have grown as a committed DRR professional and gathering all these rich experiences over the years.
Thank you.
So I would like to formally thank you now on behalf of ICOMOS, India National Scientific Committee on Risk Preparedness, and for generously sharing your work and your work processes, contextual work processes, and your approaches, and sparing time to commemorate the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. We had the opportunity to know about your work systems, and I'm sure this is going to encourage a lot of people to work on the field. Thank you, Amit.
Thanks a lot.